Dr. Sarah Chen stared at the quantum readings on her lab's holographic display, trying to convince herself she wasn't hallucinating. The patterns shouldn't exist, couldn't exist, according to everything she knew about quantum mechanics. Yet there they were, dancing across her screen like Morse code from another universe. The anomaly had first appeared 3 weeks ago during a routine quantum entanglement experiment at the Quantum Research Institute in Geneva. What started as an unexpected data spike had evolved into something that defied explanation. The entangled particles weren't just maintaining correlation across distance, they were exhibiting behaviors that suggested communication with something outside their closed system. Sarah ran her fingers through her short black hair, leaving it more disheveled than usual. Her colleague, Dr. Marcus Rivera, watched from across the lab with growing concern. "Sarah, you've been at this for 36 hours straight. Maybe it's time to..." A low hum filled the lab, cutting him off mid-sentence. The air itself seemed to vibrate, and the quantum readings exploded into chaos. Sarah's coffee mug rattled across her desk, spilling cold coffee onto her notes. "Are you seeing this?" Sarah called out, but Marcus didn't respond. She turned to find him frozen in place, mouth half open, like a paused video. The humming intensified, and the air in the center of the lab began to shimmer and fold in on itself. Sarah's scientific mind struggled to process what she was seeing. The space warped and twisted until it formed what could only be described as a door made of light. Through it stepped something that she would spend years trying to adequately describe in her reports. The being was tall, easily 3 meters in height, with a form that seemed to shift between solid and gaseous states. Its surface rippled with patterns of light that reminded Sarah of quantum probability waves. When it spoke, she felt the words in her mind rather than heard them with her ears. "Dr. Sarah Chen, we apologize for the dramatic entrance, but time is critically short, and we require direct contact." Sarah gripped her desk to steady herself. Years of scientific training hadn't prepared her for this moment, but it had taught her to focus on gathering data even in extraordinary circumstances. "You know my name. You've been affecting our quantum experiments, haven't you?" "Yes. We needed to verify your species' level of quantum understanding before making contact. You, specifically, have demonstrated remarkable insight into principles that most civilizations take millennia to grasp." The beam's form shimmered, and Sarah felt a sense of urgency emanating from it. "I represent the Galactic Council, though that term is an inadequate translation. We face a crisis that threatens not just our galaxy, but the fabric of space-time itself. We require assistance." Sarah almost laughed. "Assistance? From us? You clearly have technology far beyond anything we've achieved. What could we possibly offer?" "That is precisely why we need you." The beam's patterns shifted to darker hues. "The most advanced civilizations in our galaxy have failed to solve this crisis because we are too advanced. We have lost something that your species still possesses, something we observed in your quantum experiments." The beam waved what might have been an appendage, and a holographic image appeared in the air. It showed a region of space where reality itself seemed to be unraveling, stars and space warping like reflections in troubled water. This anomaly appeared 1 standard year ago. It defies all known physics. It grows exponentially, consuming everything in its path, and our most sophisticated models predict total galactic collapse within 2 of your Earth years. Sarah studied the image, her mind already racing with theories. "Why come to me? Why not our world leaders?" "Because you understand both quantum mechanics and human consciousness. The anomaly responds to consciousness in ways we cannot explain. Your recent experiments with quantum consciousness interaction were what drew our attention. We need humans who can think differently, who can see patterns we cannot." The beam's form flickered urgently. "We are running out of time. The council awaits. Will you help us?" Sarah looked around her lab, at her frozen colleague, at the years of research displayed on the walls. Then she looked back at the image of the growing anomaly. The scientist in her knew this was the opportunity of a lifetime. The human in her knew this was more than that. It was a responsibility. "I'll help," she said firmly. "But I'll need a team. And I'll need all the data you have." "Understood. Be warned, many on the Council opposed coming to Earth. They consider your species primitive, dangerous. You will face resistance." Sarah smiled grimly. "That's nothing new. Humans have always had to prove ourselves. When do we start?" "Now," the being replied, and the door of light expanded to fill Sarah's vision. The council chambers await. As Sarah stepped through the portal, time resumed in the lab behind her. Marcus blinked, his coffee cup halfway to his lips, unaware that humanity had just been thrust onto a galactic stage. And Sarah Chen, who had started her day analyzing quantum data, found herself walking into humanity's greatest challenge, armed with nothing but human ingenuity and the audacious belief that being primitive might just be exactly what the galaxy needed. She couldn't know then that she was right, or just how much the galaxy would underestimate the power of human consciousness, creativity, and determination. The universe was about to learn why you should never discount a species that had survived and thrived on a planet that tried to kill them every day of their existence. The door of light closed behind her, and humanity's greatest adventure began. The Galactic Council chamber defied human architectural logic. Massive crystalline structures floated without visible support, their surfaces displaying real-time stellar phenomena from across the galaxy. Sarah Chen stood on a platform that seemed to be made of solid light, trying to focus on the matter at hand rather than the dizzying view of space beneath her feet. Around her, arranged in a sphere that ignored conventional spatial orientation, were the representatives of over 1,000 civilizations. Some appeared as pure energy, others as beings of silicon or plasma, and still others in forms that her human mind struggled to categorize. Their collective attention pressed against her consciousness like a physical weight. "You bring primitives to our chamber." The thought voice resonated with dismissal. It came from a being composed of interconnected geometric shapes that pulsed with internal light. Their species still fights over mineral resources and invisible boundaries. Sarah's escort, whom she had mentally dubbed Shimmer, responded with a calm but firm thought projection. The theorists recommended this course of action. Dr. Chen's work with quantum consciousness, barely theoretical, interrupted another council member, this one a cloud of floating crystals. They discovered quantum entanglement less than 2 centuries ago. They haven't even achieved unified field theory. Sarah felt her patience, already stretched thin by the wonder and terror of her situation, beginning to fray. She thought of her grandmother, who had fled political persecution with nothing but her scientific papers sewn into the lining of her coat, who had taught Sarah that the greatest discoveries often came from the most unexpected places. With respect, Sarah projected her thoughts as she'd been hastily taught. "Perhaps that's exactly why we might see something you've missed." The chamber hummed with what she sensed was indignation. The geometric being's patterns turned harsh and angular. "Explain." Sarah gestured to the holographic display of the anomaly that hung in the center of the chamber. "You've shown me your models, your theories. They're brilliant, beyond anything we could have conceived, but they all share the same fundamental assumptions based on tens of thousands of years of advanced physics." She stepped forward, her heart pounding but her voice steady. "We humans are still asking questions you solved millennia ago. We look at quantum mechanics with fresh eyes, without the weight of established theories. Sometimes, the most basic questions lead to the most profound insights." Pretty words, the crystal cloud dismissed. "But we need solutions, not philosophy." Sarah smiled. "Then let me show you something." She pulled out the small quantum interface device Shimmer had given her, connected to the chamber systems. "These are the readings from the anomaly, correct?" The council members projected agreement. "Watch this." Sarah manipulated the data, stripping away the sophisticated analytical overlays the council's scientists had added. "Look at the raw data. The pattern. It reminds me of something we observed in our consciousness quantum interaction experiments." She brought up her own experimental data, the patterns that had drawn the council's attention in the first place. Side by side, There was an unmistakable similarity in the quantum fluctuations. The chamber grew silent. Sarah felt the quality of attention shift from dismissal to something closer to curiosity. "This is why your predictive models keep failing," she continued. "You're treating it as a purely physical phenomenon. But look, the anomaly responds to conscious observation, just like quantum particles in our double-slit experiments. It's not just breaking down space-time, it's interacting with consciousness itself." A new voice joined the discussion, this one carrying the weight of ancient wisdom. A being that appeared as a network of interconnected points of light moved forward. "The human speaks truth. We have become so focused on the complex that we forgot to look at the fundamental." But what does it mean? The geometric being's patterns had softened, showing what Sarah interpreted as thoughtfulness. "It means," Sarah said, her mind racing with implications, "that we've been thinking about this all wrong. We don't need a bigger particle accelerator or a more powerful containment field. We need to understand how consciousness itself interacts with the fabric of space-time." She paused, knowing her next words would either earn their trust or confirm their worst fears about human primitiveness. "And humans, we might be better equipped for that than anyone else here." "Explain," commanded multiple voices at once. "Our consciousness is messy, unpredictable. We still dream, imagine, create art, believe in things we can't prove. We haven't optimized these inefficiencies out of our minds like more advanced species might have. And if this anomaly is indeed responding to consciousness, maybe it's that very messiness we need." The chamber erupted in a cascade of thought voices, some dismissive, others intrigued. The network of light points expanded, commanding attention. "Dr. Chen's theory merits investigation, but we will need more than one human's insight." Sarah nodded. "I'll need my team. Dr. Rivera, Dr. Patel, Dr. Yamaguchi, experts in quantum mechanics, consciousness studies, and theoretical physics." And she took a deep breath. "We'll need access to your data, your facilities, all of them." The council chamber hummed with discussion. Finally, Shimmer stepped forward. "It shall be done. But know this, if you are wrong, if you waste our time while the anomaly grows, the consequences for Earth will be severe." Sarah thought of her lab back on Earth, of Marcus frozen in mid-sip, unaware that she was gambling humanity's future on a theory born from human intuition and stubbornness. "We won't fail," she said with more confidence than she felt. "Humans are good at beating impossible odds. It's kind of our thing." As the council chamber dissolved around her, Sarah couldn't help but wonder if she had just made the biggest mistake in human history, or taken the first step toward proving that humanity's greatest weaknesses might just be its greatest strengths. 2 weeks had passed in the vast research complex floating at the edge of the Andromeda Arm. Dr. Marcus Rivera still couldn't believe he was working alongside beings made of pure energy and crystalline intelligences that had been studying quantum physics since before humans had discovered fire. Yet here he was, arguing with them about the fundamental nature of reality. "You're not listening," he insisted, gesturing at the holographic simulation hovering above the lab's central platform. "The anomaly isn't just growing, it's learning." Dr. Aisha Patel, consciousness specialist, and the team's expert in quantum mind interaction, stepped forward. Her dark eyes sparkled with the same intensity they showed during her famous TED talks about the quantum nature of human consciousness. "Every time you try to contain it with your fields, it adapts. Almost like it's playing with us." Dr. Yamaguchi finished, his weathered face creased in concentration. The theoretical physicist had come out of retirement for this mission, claiming he'd rather die in space trying to save the galaxy than peacefully in his garden. The alien scientists, a collective that called themselves the Theoretical Consortium, projected waves of skepticism that made the humans' teeth ache. Their spokesperson, a being of pure mathematical equations that had chosen the name integer, manifested a series of complex calculations in the air. "Your anthropomorphization of the phenomenon is precisely why your species was considered too primitive for this task, Integer stated. The anomaly is a quantum spatial disturbance, not a conscious entity. Sarah Chen watched the familiar argument unfold from her workstation, where she'd been analyzing the latest data from the anomaly's outer boundary. Something about the pattern nagged at her. It reminded her of music, she whispered. Then louder, "It's like music." The room fell silent. Sarah rushed to the central platform, her fingers flying over the quantum interface. Look at these patterns. They're not random, and they're not just mathematical. They have rhythm, harmony, repetition, like a symphony written in quantum fluctuations. She highlighted specific sequences in the data. Here and here, the anomaly isn't just responding to consciousness, it's trying to communicate through quantum harmonies. We've been so focused on containing it that we missed the message. That's impossible, Integer protested. Quantum fluctuations cannot carry meaningful patterns over such distances. Unless, Dr. Yamaguchi said slowly, the entire fabric of space-time is the instrument. His eyes lit up with the fire of scientific revelation. The anomaly isn't destroying reality. It's resonating with it. Dr. Patel's hands trembled as she pulled up her consciousness studies. That's why it responds to observation. Conscious minds are quantum instruments themselves, capable of detecting and interpreting these harmonies. We've been treating it like an enemy when it's been trying to make first contact. The theoretical consortium erupted in a cascade of competing theories and objections. Integer's mathematical form became chaotic with agitation. This is absurd. You cannot seriously suggest we try to. What? Play music to a quantum anomaly. Not music, Sarah said firmly, but something similar. A quantum harmony tuned to conscious wavelengths. If we can match its frequency, establish a resonance. You're talking about using living minds as quantum tuning forks. Integer's form pulsed with alarm. The energy requirements alone would be devastating. Any consciousness connected directly to the anomaly would be changed forever. Sarah finished. Yes, I know. That's why I'm volunteering to do it myself. Sarah, no. Marcus stepped forward, his face pale. The quantum feedback alone could destroy your mind. Do you have a better idea? Sarah challenged. The anomaly's growth is accelerating. We have weeks, maybe days, before it starts consuming populated systems. We can't contain it, can't destroy it. Our only choice is to communicate with it. The Council will never approve this, Integer stated. It is too dangerous, too unpredictable. We need a proper solution, not a primitive ritual based on human intuition. Sarah felt something snap inside her. Weeks of condescension, of having human insights dismissed, of watching the anomaly grow while the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy argued about theoretical models. It all boiled over. That's your problem, she said, her voice sharp. You've evolved beyond intuition, beyond taking risks. You've optimized yourselves so much that you can't think outside your own perfect systems. But this anomaly doesn't care about your perfection. It's breaking all your rules, and you're too afraid to break them yourselves. The room hummed with tension. Finally, Dr. Yamaguchi spoke, his voice carrying the weight of decades of scientific wisdom. In human history, our greatest breakthroughs often came from breaking rules, from daring to try what everyone else called impossible. We need to act now, Dr. Patel added, with or without council approval. Integer's form flickered with what might have been uncertainty. You would risk everything on this theory. Your lives, your minds, possibly your entire species. Sarah looked at her team, saw the determination in their faces. Then she looked at the holographic display showing the anomaly's inexorable growth. Yes, she said simply, because that's what humans do. We leap into the unknown, not because we're certain, but because someone has to. The alien scientists conferred in rapid quantum pulses. Finally, Integer's form stabilized. The Council will shut this down if they learn of it. We would need to act quickly, in secret. Sarah smiled. Good thing humans are also pretty good at breaking rules quickly. She turned to her team. We have 12 hours before the next council review. Let's make them count. As they began their frantic preparations, Sarah couldn't help but wonder if they were about to make first contact with something beyond even the council's understanding, or if they were about to prove every alien fear about human recklessness horrifyingly correct. Either way, they were about to change the galaxy forever. The quantum harmonics chamber looked like something out of a fever dream. Crystalline structures pulsed with energy harvested from a dozen dying stars, while streams of living light flowed through channels that seemed to bend through dimensions humans had no words for. At its center, suspended in a web of quantum fields, Sarah Chen prepared herself for what she was about to attempt. "Final systems check," Marcus called out, his voice tight with concern. He stood at a control panel that merged alien and human technology, jerry-rigged together in the 12 frantic hours they'd had to prepare. Quantum field integrity at 97% and holding. Neural interface online. Dr. Paddle reported from her station, surrounded by holographic displays showing Sarah's brain activity. Consciousness wavelength patterns are stable, but she hesitated. "Sarah, the amount of quantum information you're about to process, no human mind was ever meant to handle this." "Good thing we're good at doing things we weren't meant to do," Sarah replied, trying to keep her voice steady. She glanced at the massive viewport that showed the anomaly, now close enough to see with the naked eye. It rippled like the surface of a soap bubble, if that bubble were made of fractured spacetime and quantum impossibilities. Integer materialized next to Dr. Yamaguchi, who was making final adjustments to the quantum resonance frequencies. "The Council has detected unauthorized power usage in this sector. We have perhaps 20 minutes before they investigate directly." "Then we better make this count," Sarah said. She looked at each member of her team, memorizing their faces. If this went wrong, if the theories they'd cobbled together from human intuition and alien science failed, start the sequence. The chamber hummed to life. Energy coursed through the crystalline structures, building towards levels that made the alien sensors flash with warning signals. Dr. Yamaguchi's hands flew over his controls, conducting this impossible symphony of quantum forces like the conductor of an orchestra. "First resonance layer establishing," he announced. "Beginning consciousness interface in 10 seconds. Sarah closed her eyes, remembering her grandmother's words from long ago. "The universe's greatest mysteries aren't solved by those who know the most, but by those who can imagine the impossible." 5 seconds. She thought of Earth, of humanity's brief but explosive journey from cave paintings to quantum physics. 3. Of all the times humans had faced the impossible and simply refused to accept it. 1. The universe exploded behind her eyes. Sarah's consciousness expanded beyond the boundaries of her human form, carried on waves of quantum resonance into the very fabric of space-time. She felt her mind stretching, transforming, becoming something that existed between the moments of time itself. And there, in that impossible space, she felt it. The anomaly wasn't just conscious, it was ancient, vast, and utterly alone. Images flooded her transformed mind. Civilizations rising and falling across billions of years, the slow dance of galaxies, the birth and death of countless stars. The anomaly, no, the entity, had watched it all, a solitary observer trapped between dimensions, unable to interact with the universe it had witnessed for so long. Until now. "It's not destroying reality," Sarah's voice echoed strangely through the chamber, carrying harmonics that made the alien equipment vibrate in sympathy. "It's trying to break through, to make contact, but its consciousness is so vast, so different, that its very attention warps space-time. Neural patterns are going critical," Dr. Patel warned, her voice seeming to come from a great distance. "Sarah, you need to disconnect." But Sarah wasn't listening. In this expanded state, she finally understood. The entity wasn't just trying to communicate, it was lonely. It had watched life evolve across the cosmos, had seen consciousness bloom like flowers across the garden of spacetime, but had never been able to touch it, to join in the great dance of life, until it had sensed something new, human consciousness, unbound by the rigid structures of more advanced species, capable of imagining the impossible and reaching for it. In humanity's messy, dynamic, quantum-entangled minds, it had found a potential bridge. Sarah, Marcus's voice cut through her expanded awareness. Power systems are overloading. The Council's ships are approaching. You need to end this now. But Sarah had another idea. Here, in this space between spaces, she could feel the quantum nature of consciousness itself, not just her own, but every mind in the chamber, human and alien alike. They were all instruments in a cosmic orchestra, each playing their own unique quantum harmony. Everyone, she called out, her voice carrying frequencies that made reality itself shiver. I need you to open your minds. Don't fight what you're about to feel. The entity, it doesn't want to destroy. It wants to join, to share, to learn. But it needs all of us, every different type of consciousness, to build a bridge it can cross safely. That's insane. Integer's mathematical form fluctuated wildly. The energy requirements alone. Trust human intuition. Sarah interrupted. Just this once. Please. For a moment that stretched into eternity, nothing happened. Then, one by one, she felt them. Human minds burning bright with determination and fear and hope. Crystalline consciousnesses shimming with perfect mathematical precision. Energy beings pulsing with ancient wisdom, all joining together in a quantum chorus unlike anything the universe had ever seen. The anomaly pulsed, rippled, and began to change. The fabric of space-time groaned as something vast and ancient and wonderful began to cross the bridge they had built together, preparing to enter their reality in a way that wouldn't tear it apart. As Sarah's consciousness began to fade back to merely human awareness, she caught a glimpse of what they had achieved. Not just saving the galaxy, but opening a door to something entirely new. Humanity had done more than prove itself to the galaxy. It had helped the galaxy prove itself to something far greater. The last thing she heard before darkness took her was Integer's thoughts, tinged with what might have been awe. Perhaps we were wrong about what makes a species advanced. Sarah Chen woke to the sound of quantum harmonies. They weren't the overwhelming symphony she had experienced during first contact with the entity. These were subtle, like wind chimes at the edge of hearing. She opened her eyes to find herself in the medical bay of the research station, surrounded by monitoring equipment both human and alien. "Welcome back," Marcus said softly. He looked exhausted but relieved. "You've been unconscious for 3 days." Sarah tried to sit up, but her body felt as heavy as neutron star matter. The entity, did we? See for yourself. Marcus helped her turn toward the viewport. What she saw took her breath away. Where the anomaly had been, there now hung a structure that defied human language to describe. It shimmered like the surface of a soap bubble stretched across space-time itself. But instead of destroying reality around it, it enhanced it. Stars seen through its shifting surface seemed more real somehow, more alive. The entity successfully crossed over, Dr. Paddle explained, entering the room with Dr. Yamaguchi and Integer. But more importantly, it taught us how to build this, a permanent bridge between its dimension and ours. The Council is calling it the Nexus. Though some of us, Integer's mathematical form rippled with what Sarah now recognized as amusement, are calling it the Chen Bridge. Sarah felt her cheeks flush. The others who joined the link, are they okay? More than okay, Dr. Yamaguchi said, his face animated with excitement. The experience changed us all, in ways we're only beginning to understand. The quantum harmonies we created together, they didn't just help the entity cross over. They taught us all something about the nature of consciousness itself. The Council has been in emergency session since the event, Integer added. The revelation that consciousness can be quantumly linked across species, across dimensional boundaries. It challenges everything we thought we knew about the universe and about ourselves. Sarah slowly absorbed this information. And Earth. How has the Council ruled on humanity's status? A new figure entered the room. Shimmer, the being who had first contacted her in her lab, what felt like a lifetime ago. That is actually why we're here. The Council requests your presence. Can you stand? With Marcus's help, Sarah made it to her feet. Her body felt weak, but her mind felt expanded somehow, as if the experience had permanently altered her consciousness. She could still feel faint echoes of the quantum harmonies that had allowed them to communicate with the entity. The Council chamber had changed. The floating platforms now pulsed with gentle quantum frequencies that Sarah could somehow feel in her mind. The representatives of 1,000 civilizations watched as she was helped to the central platform. The geometric being who had first dismissed humanity spoke first, its patterns showing a complexity of emotion that Sarah couldn't have recognized before the joining. Dr. Sarah Chen, your species has done more than prove its worth. You have shown us that our very definition of advancement was flawed. We thought ourselves superior because we had optimized away what we saw as primitive traits, another council member added. But in doing so, we had lost something precious, the ability to think beyond our own perfect systems, to imagine the impossible, and then reach for it. The entity has shared some of its knowledge with us, Shimmer explained. It chose humanity for first contact, not despite your primitive nature, but because of it. Your species still maintains a connection to the quantum nature of consciousness that we had engineered out of ourselves in our quest for perfection. The council chamber hummed with harmonics that Sarah now understood were the equivalent of nodding agreement. Therefore, the geometric being continued. We extend to humanity full membership in the Galactic Council, effective immediately. Additionally, we request that Earth establish a permanent research facility to study human consciousness and its quantum properties. There is much we can learn from each other. Sarah felt the weight of the moment, but something bothered her. With respect, she said carefully, I'm not sure that's the right path. A ripple of surprise went through the chamber. Explain, several voices requested simultaneously.